Good morning and thank you for joining us as we continue our monitoring of the elections held across the country. The presidential and National Assembly elections held across the country yesterday, an election seen as the tightest race since 1999. My name is Kolawole Akintoba. Welcome. This is Election Watch, our live coverage of events after the elections held yesterday. We'll take you straight to Anambra, where the Commissioner of Police, Anambra State, is standing by. Mr. Echeng. He's standing by to speak to us live from Anambra State. Good morning, Mr. Echeng.
Good morning, Kola. Thank you for having me.
Right. We just want an update from you regarding the security reports you received so far from Anambra State, especially as a run-up to the elections. There were concerns about if elections would even hold in the southeast.
Yeah, thank you, Kola.
The election that was held yesterday was very peaceful in Anambra State. We didn't have any hitch anywhere, and it is because of the preparation we had in the state, because of our peculiar security situation in the state. We have been on operation throughout, so the election was just an easy one for us to handle. Before the election, you're aware that the IGP had organized a series of trainings for the security agencies, the police especially, and we had our faces the pre-election, the election itself, then the post-election phase, and we were very prepared. And I want to say this, that one of the reasons why we had a very successful election security-wise in the state was because the security agencies came together in a seamless synergy. And we had a single harmonized operation order that clearly stated the tasks of every of the agencies through the election. And we were able to do that task very well yesterday, and it is not by accident that our election here was very free and fair and without hitch.
Anambra State. I'm sure you're also getting reports from other states, especially in the southeast. What are you hearing, sir?
I'm concerned about Anambra State. I'm not concerned about other states because I'm the Commissioner of Police Anambra State, so I can't speak for other states. But if there's anything on Anambra State, let's go.
In terms of monitoring the elections yesterday?
Yeah, that was part of our challenge. Before the election, we did our trend analysis in the states. We understood what the problem were, and we were able to prepare. We had a situation where the military had to encase the states. All the border towns to other states like Igbo, Abia, and any other state bordering of Kogi, River states were very engaged by the military, just to make sure that troublemakers don't come in from outside the state to cause trouble in Anambra. We had a very robust patrol inside the state itself to take care of any situation inside the state. We had a rapid response unit around the states. In case there was any situation, they had to attack that particular situation. And that we did throughout yesterday. And then where there were situations in the polling booths, the rapid response team was there to take care of it. So I think we had it very well yesterday.
Right. Also, as a run-up to the elections, I know the police had some training. How do you think this helped in your success in Anambra State yesterday?
Yes, it's actually helped so greatly, because I started by saying about the training that we had before the election, because specifically it took us to look into what we were to expect during the election. And apart from that, it helped to bring out the consciousness of every policeman, the professionalism of every policeman. This is what you are supposed to do during the election. We don't want you to go outside. everybody had this pocket notebook on him. If you are in doubt, check the pocket notebook so that you'll be able to know exactly what you have to do. Ours was to create an enabling environment, a peaceful world for every Nigerian to come out to exercise its franchise. And that was exactly what the training did for us. And we didn't go outside what we were told to do.
Just before I let you go, Mr. Echeng, Commissioner of Police, let me ask you, you know, the results are being, you know, counted now and collation and all that. What plans do you have in terms of securing Anambra State when the results are declared to forestall any disturbances?
Yes, I started by telling you that for us, we had 3 phases. Before the election itself, and post-election. And we have put measures around the states. We are prepared for anything that will upset the security of the state. We are very prepared. We have the military, we have the police, we have the DSS, we have the NDLA, the civil defense, and immigration. We are just like a team working for the state. And that's why we have been able to achieve what we have achieved in the state.
Later, today or tomorrow, for more security updates from Anambra State.
I appreciate the good work that
I appreciate the good work that you are doing. And
thank you very much.
Say thank you. No.
That was the Commissioner of Police, Anambra State, Mr. Echeng, speaking to us live from Anambra. We'll take a break. When we come back, I'll introduce our studio guest, and we'll have Barrister Aborishade joining us from Ibadan. Stay with us. It's Election Watch on Galaxy TV.
For the governorship and state assembly elections. So we're not joking with this situation at all. It's critical to the conduct of credible elections. Princess from the Anambra Broadcasting side.
Welcome back. This is still Election Watch on Galaxy Television, a live coverage of the 2023 Presidential and National Assembly elections held yesterday. Straight away, we take you to Ibadan, where Barrister Niyi Aborishade is standing by to speak to us. But just before then, I would like to introduce our studio guest, Dr. Dokun Adedeji, a public affairs analyst. Dr. Adedeji, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
I know you have a lot to tell us this morning, because I know you're keenly watching this race as it unfolds. Let me ask you before we go to Dr. Barrister Aborishade in Ibadan, what your thoughts are, you know, in terms of the fallouts of the elections held yesterday. A lot of challenges, yes. A lot of things have been thrown up. So just briefly, if you...
But you know, what I said exactly a few days ago is this. The digital, the technology component has worked so far, but what is the interface with the man element? And that's what we're seeing in all these kind of things all over the country, the noise. For as long as we cannot interface properly, where man comes into technology, we will have these issues. So, and also that is not an INEC problem per se, but except our own personal problems and the event of our politics. And it takes me to the fundamental of what I want to say, is that until our politics becomes a vocation and not a profession, we will have this.
Right.
Until people are made to have a second address, like what else do you do apart from politics? So if you then if you don't win, you go back to what you're doing. But for as long as people take it as a profession, it will be do or die. And so it will disrupt the work that INEC must have done or prepared for. That is just what I'm saying, and maybe when we talk more, we'll elaborate on it. Right. And I think as a people, we must begin to change our conception of what politics is and what leadership is and what our intentions are. If you want to serve the people, it should not be by force or by imposition. Right. It should be by people making their choices that you are the right person to be there. Those will help us.
Right. Okay, straight away we go to Ibadan, where Barrister Niyi Aborishade is standing by to speak to us. Good morning, Barrister. Right. Let me ask you, sir, to give us your assessment of the elections as held yesterday. before I start asking you some critical questions.
All right. Yeah, the election was very fair yesterday. There was a substantial compliance, even by the INEC. In many places, they came in time. In some few places, they came late, but still, on overall assessment, I think INEC has done well, subject to some technological issue, which is not their fault. Like my gentleman there, Dr. just mentioned, it's not their fault about the technological issue in some areas, but little areas. So when we look at it, substantially, they have performed creditably very well. And the election was okay, fair. Few intimidations from there. And
Let's
in
look
other
at
places,
the
it was okay.
performance of INEC from the perspective of what happened yesterday. In terms of, there were reports of logistical problems, people,
Yes.
electoral materials getting to the polling units very late. So in some states, people even volunteered to act as ad hoc staff. How would you think this would impact on the credibility of this election?
For the next election, I think INEC should get it right. Like I said, it's not in all the places. In few places, the electoral materials arrived late. But this should serve as a lesson to the INEC for the next coming election, the governorship, the House of Assembly election, that they should be well prepared before the election date. Sometimes it's difficult to stop some certain things. For example, where there's accident or anything, there could be logistic problem. Unless they want to get material there before the day. And that is also very bad. It may be compromised. So, but still, they will just have to do more. But there are some certain things that nobody can influence, like accident and like other things. Apart from that, for me, I still see that it has been better than some of the election that we have done in the past. On this occasion, they tried their best, subject to some few issues and some errors in some places. But they need just to get it right a bit more better than this one in the next election. But in my own judgment, I think they have substantially complied. When we look at it, we have 774 local governments in Nigeria, and they have to serve. In this local government, there are so many wards. In some wards, we have 20. In some local government, we have 20 wards. Some we have 12 wards, and they still have to distribute election material to all these wards. And so there are some things that is unpreventable by anybody. There's nothing they can do. Anything, breakdown of vehicle, things like that can happen. But I will still tell them to do more next time. But in my judgment now, I think they have done well, in my opinion.
Well, Doctor was talking earlier about the technology, the interface between man and technology. Beavers in some states yesterday did not perform as expected, although the INEC chairman did say that from their reports it performed optimally, but without statistics to back that claim. In some states also, the Beavers was hijacked by thugs, and there was violence in some places where ballot boxes were snatched. Is this not a cause for concern for this election and future elections in Nigeria?
It is a cause for concern, but the failure of technology cannot be, the blame cannot be completely put at INEC table, because technology is very difficult, it's complex sometimes. Today, you use it, it works, tomorrow it doesn't work. But the human interface, as the doctor has just said, is a problem. And the security did their best. I was in some area yesterday as well, monitoring the election, and I see the effect of the security personnel around. But the issue is the problem with human beings. Some people are just there to cause problems. And I think we should also be grateful. Some people thought this election will not hold at all, that the thug and thuggery will not allow this election to hold. But here we have. We have conducted the election free and fair, in my opinion. Some people may have other opinion, but the human element, that means we need more security, more than this one, to go into all nooks and crannies of Nigeria to ensure that there is no intimidation, there is no snatching of ballot boxes. Some people made their Waterloo yesterday anyway. They tried to snatch ballot boxes in some area and they made their Waterloo. The security did not allow, they try not to allow something like that to happen. But in some few cases, it does happen. But we can do better in the next election. That means we need more security. We need more cooperation also from the people. Nobody should volunteer himself to be a ballot snatcher. It is getting difficult for them. To rig election is getting difficult. Of course, in some area, they are still trying to do some other things, trying to bribe the electoral officers and things like that. But it's better. There's substantial compliance this time around than before, in my opinion. But we can do better. I agree we can do better. And in all those areas that has been highlighted, where there are problems of arriving late, snatching of buses, they can put more security personnel in that area to guard the electoral materials and the people in that area so that we can prevent such occurrence in the future. Thank you.
I'll get back to you in a minute. Let me come to Dr. Adedeji and ask you to also look at those issues for us. The issue of beavers not working as expected in some areas. In fact, in some areas, elections had to be postponed till today, and some till another 2 weeks. Is this not a cause for concern for us?
Quite honestly, it is not much of a concern. It might look like so if you look at the substantial compliance. And I also said, I would like to repeat, that for as long as man has to interface with technology, we will expect these things. And you know, it comes from two things. The fundamentals of the fact that how do we play politics here?
Right.
Do or die, that's one. Two, our politicians have weaponized poverty. So little money attracts people, they want to do. How will any human being be conscripted to carry ballot boxes and he gives himself, supplies himself to such a responsibility? Until we begin to change the dynamics of our politics, that becomes attractive to people of intelligence, or let me say moderate intelligence, and people of professional standing, that their job is not. You know, some people, when they get to Abuja and win an election, they want to stay there, they don't want to come back. If there's nothing like a gravy train attached to it, and so much of pecuniary benefits coming from the fact of playing politics, we will not survive this. So I will suggest, yeah, this is an eye-opener to us. You know, INEC has been so locked, or has been very good in the way they have changed the Electoral Act, and then the possibility of the things they have taken away, and then we can vote as we are voting. I think we should do more. Can we eventually make it that the interface, man and machine, is reduced? Why is it that on an election day we can't go to work? We can't do any other thing except to vote. It doesn't happen like that.
Maybe we can vote on our phones.
Absolutely. If we're beginning to get to a cashless situation, get to a situation where you can do many things on your phone or your laptop, then let's configure it. So too many people don't come as thugs to come and carry ballot boxes. And if we're going to give security, we must know some areas that are prone to this kind of incursions. And so we don't take those places lightly. We fortify them, so that becomes difficult. The one that happened at Ikate, they said about 30, 50 people came in. Obviously, voters cannot stop about 50 people, and then they destroyed all the materials. We must, as a people, begin to distance ourselves from those kind of primitive attitude, where you kill for someone, or you go and fight for someone, and you don't see him until another 4 years' time, and then you collect 10,000, will 10,000 keep you for years? Until we get to that kind. And also, INEC and NOA, National Orientation Agency, must begin to do a lot more about these things, awareness, not a month to election and begin to run around with this. No, that's not it. It must be a constant thing. And then get our people to become aware. What do you need to do? How do you need to vote and all the rest? I think those things will help us.
Well, some argue that part of the problem is that we're not able to grow our capacity, our infrastructure at par, to bring it at par with our growing population. That probably is also a problem.
Oh, absolutely. That's true. Because if you don't grow your capacity or your infrastructure capacity to meet, how will you look at the technological base? If we don't have enough web network and all the rest, and then the interface with the communications people, how do you want to transmit? People were shouting yesterday where I voted that, look, we need you to upload, we need you to, they said there was no network. And so these are also, so, you know, many times I think these are self-inflicted wounds in the sense that sometimes our politicians don't want these things done so that it doesn't stop them from doing what they know best, which is just to circumvent the process, and the policies are made to look redundant. But we must, as a matter of fact, not wait for next 4 years before we do this. How can we begin to incrementally do this over time before election comes? Those will be very important for us.
Barrister Abu-Rishadi, let me come back to you, and let me ask you, there's this article, I'd like to take something from that, published on the Chatham House webpage. It says that the capacity for corruption and enrichment through enduring patronage mechanisms has severely inhibited the democratic institutions and the state capacity. How do you respond to this in view of where we find ourselves as a nation?
There's no doubt about that, about the corruption element of our politics. Almost the major political parties practice, one way or the other, a kind of luring the voters to their side. They were giving money away. But I salute the current situation, the precedent for the current situation. Of course, people may not be happy because of the cashless policy, but it has helped in this election. We can now see that distribution of money, or luring voters with money, or paying voters at the polling booth, all of them is almost eradicated as yesterday, because there is no cash for anybody. Of course, there are some people in some area they are doing transfer, but it's limited. Majority of these people that are money, they are illiterate. They are illiterate, so they don't have bank account. So it's very difficult now to bribe voters at the polling booth. So I think to some extent the cashless policy has worked. Of course, I cannot take out the fact that there's hardship in the country in terms of the cashless policy. But nevertheless, I think it worked in this election, and it reduced corruption. It reduced giving cash to people to lure them to vote. So, but that's why we see some surprises in many places. Ordinarily, it wouldn't have happened. But because now people now fought for their consent, there's no money to give them, and then we can see some surprises where we least expected. It has never happened in Nigeria. So to some extent, the corruption in political circle in terms of bribery or luring people to vote has reduced drastically in this election. And so if any candidate emerges, we can say is to some extent it is people's choice. It's not about money. It's not about buying food. So Nigeria, we are getting there. Nigeria, we are getting there. It's getting better. It's better than the one we did 4 years ago, and the next one will even be better. So we are doing well. So far, so good. And we need to credit the INEC and all those who are involved in this election process. It is getting better, and I think there should be fewer litigation this time around. There should be fewer litigation this time around because the electoral malpractice has reduced to some extent in many places. So I salute the INEC and the people. They are doing very well, but we can still do better in the next election. My opinion.
Right. Barrister Abu-Rishadi, in spite of your optimism, you know, in terms of vote buying and all that, you would agree with me that this hasn't been totally eradicated, as we've seen in the last, from reports, we've seen in the last 2 days or so, or 3 days. So how do we get to that level where we can totally demonetize our politics in Nigeria?
We are getting there, like I said earlier, but we still need cooperation from people. You know, the politicians, the major politicians, the gladiators, they have tried to influence the minds of the people that this policy is against them, because they know what they intended to do, which is now almost impossible for them. I am a politician too, and I have seen the failure. Everywhere they are saying, oh, there's no way we can bring money. There are many people who are arrested, carrying dollars because there is no naira to be distributed around. So, and one thing is that they are promising them that if they can do this after the election, when things become easier, they will settle them. But everybody knows promise made before the election is null and void after the election anyway. So people knows what they are doing, and we can get it better. But the people, our people, must be prepared to endure some action in order for us to get to some certain level. We should not allow the politician to dictate the opinion that the government is intentionally punishing the citizens. That's why there is cashless. They are aiming at something which is to reduce the level of corruption. I have never been an admirer of President Buhari, but on this occasion I have to support because I know what is going on in political level. So next time we can do better than this. Again, like I said, this is getting better. We can do much, much better. But we need proper orientation. Because when you are helping some people, the people, and they are not aware that the government is acting on their best interest because of lack of logistic issue in terms of communication. When there's a proper communication to the people in the country and explain the reason behind the policy all the time, then people will be aware that the government is acting in their best interest. Because the politicians, they are using their money and the media to spark opinion from the masses. That's why a few days ago you see people burning banks, burning everywhere, throwing tires, because some people have shaped their opinion against the government. Whereas under normal circumstances, the policy of the government in this cashless situation is to ensure that there is a free and fair election and level playing ground. And that is happening already. We can see the tsunami happening in Nigeria. So I think the government is doing well now, the INEC is doing well, but we can do much more better next time. There's always room for improvement. So what they said in Ketamal was correct. Some years ago, this would have happened. In last election, we have seen where they are distributing 5,000 naira, 10,000 naira to the voters to change their mind. And people were mortgaging their soul because of 10,000 naira, because of Ankara clothes that they are distributing. But this time around, it was almost impossible for them to distribute anything. And then with the result is getting better. We can do better. Thank you very much.
Let me ask Dr. Adedeji. You know, he's made some very critical submissions. The view is that Nigeria's politics is over monetized.
Absolutely.
You know, so, like I asked Barrister Aborishade, how do we build that structure, that system, that makes politics less attractive? It becomes more of service than what you can get from it.
You know, I said at the beginning, and let me reiterate it, until we take money out of politics, we will not get quality people.
Is that possible?
Oh, it is possible. How do I say so? The thing is, politics should be a vocation, something you do, not something you live for. Many of our politicians don't have a second address. I mean, listen to what happened to Ben.
So in other words, it shouldn't be a profession.
It shouldn't be a profession.
That's right.
It should be something you do, and then you lose, and then you give service and go away. And also, probably not a full-time job, a part-time assignment, and then they are not remunerated in a manner that, I mean, why should somebody serve for 4 years and is getting a severance package? I mean, I don't understand it. So when you give a governor, let's say a governor, he serves for 8 years, and then you give him one house in Abuja, one house in the state that he worked on, and then money for medicals. So for doing what? When people have worked in civil service for 35 years and they haven't gotten 10,000 or 100,000 of their own money, you make it so lucrative that everybody wants to go there. Why do you give them accommodation if it's a part-time job? Go see other nations, see what they do with politics. That's one. And also, we don't punish offenders. There's an electoral act that says if you do this, do you know that if you carry a ballot box and escape, the other put in 6 months or 100,000 fine? That is chicken money. His patron will pay it. But if this person is jailed and some of the things probably seized And then many of the politicians come. What is the source of their funds?
Right.
We don't know how they get their money, and then they pump the money into the system. Look, until we begin to do the fundamental things that form the bedrock of our democracy, we'll be deceiving ourselves. So I will suggest we can demonetize it, and it's systematic. If you want to run, this is not a full-time job, it's a part-time job, and this is how much. Nobody knows how much a senator earns. Nobody in Nigeria knows. And so they would then say, oh, newspaper allowance, this allowance, wardrobe allowance, and all those kind of, does he not wear clothes before he became a legislator? And so why should we create a situation where they benefit for doing nothing? How many times do they work in a week? I mean, those are the issues we must begin to put into perspective. If we don't do all those things, these people will kill us in the way they manage our funds. They fritter away. Look, the universities need how many billions just to continue and then to sustain. They don't get it, but the National Assembly will build their build 3 times and over, and they will give them constituency and to do what? What is the basis of a constituency allowance when there's a government and there's a local government to service this? Why don't they write that local government? My people need it, and why should it be their responsibility to get money and then go and be building roads? I mean, those are the things that cause them to want to stay in Abuja. Nobody gets to Abuja and wants to return to Lagos or Ibaroke. They stay there and then they want to continue to benefit because they know what it comes from it. It is us. We must insist. And that is the pattern we begin to see with this election. It's not about parties. Do we have political parties in Nigeria? We don't. We only have contraptions where people, how can somebody move from APC to PDP and feel comfortable? There's no ideological position. And there's no philosophy that speaks to what they want to do. For as long as those leeways are there, we will have only people who want to enjoy our money playing politics.
Well, your submission throws up the question of responsive leadership and how we can bring accountability.
Absolutely.
In terms of leadership. So how do we begin to address some of these issues as well?
Look, I've said to people, and with due respect, for as long as we keep these old politicians in tow in politics, we are not like to have a clear-cut change from the old.
Right.
They're used to it. They're entrenched in politics of corruption until we begin to get people who are moderate, intelligent, who want to serve their people. We know them in our society, those who want to serve, those who have made impact. Those are the people. I mean, you can imagine if a Gani Fawehinmi never was able to win an election. Do you think today if Pat Utomi runs, he will win? Or all those kind of, they will not win because they cannot bring money. Until we begin to, another thing to do is, I think, the emphasis on presidency is too much. The president can do only as much as the National Assembly permits him to do. We must get the cream of our intelligentsia into National Assembly. Not people come there to sleep. For as long as we put anybody there, most of them, they don't even know what they're talking about. Some of them don't. Where is their constituency office? Who are the officers? How do they get the information they bring to write bills? If we don't begin to change those kind of process, and we allow these people who have been there for 40 years, who never want to leave, of course, they do not understand what the future holds. How can a man that is 70 or 80 be running for presidency when he doesn't have a time for the future? So those are the things we must begin to look at as a people,
right,
and then give. That is how only these people can be responsive to the yearning and needs of people.
Right. Well, you talked about younger politicians in your comments last time, but a major hindrance for the young people to vie for public office is the escalating cost of politics and running for public office.
Right.
Again, you've addressed some of these issues, but it throws up the issue of money in politics.
But the issue is this. I mean, I'm old a bit to understand how politics was played a bit in the past. If there's no political party that has a way in which people pay dues, and then we're running in that direction, people will monetize it, then a billionaire comes and hijacks the whole party. But if we begin to demonetize it by saying, look, this is a political party, They must have philosophy. They must have ideology of what they stand for. And then we pay dues. And then it's only among members, the way you are productive, that you can run for office. But if you continue the same process in which we are going, that somebody comes in and he buys a form for 100 million to run for presidency. If he buys a form for 100 million, where does he get the money to buy it? And when he gets there, what is he going to be looking out for first? His interest of recouping his money. So this thing must be, it must be in a way that we're serious about it. We must denounce the kind of politics we pay right now. And then begin. Young people who can play politics, they can be. Do you think I can be in a political party that is now and then win? I can't. I can't give anybody money. And somebody comes and then puts his son there and then he pays the money. But we must begin to de-emphasize the importance of money. And when we do that, a lot more young people who are willing to be a part of, who will be in the future, we will run for office because they can plan for their own future.
Right. But Barrister Abubakar, let me come back to you, sir, and also ask for your views in terms of Dr. Adedeji has talked about, younger people vying for public office. But of course, the challenge really is that it takes a lot, to aspire for public office in this country, especially with the escalating cost of politics and running for that public office. How do you think this should be addressed?
To participate, to contest the election. But it doesn't take young people to be a good ruler or to be a good administrator. So that is a totally different thing entirely. We have seen where many young people have failed in the past. They have been there. We have seen Bankole, we have seen Yaya Bello and co. They have not made any difference. They have not performed better or creditably well than the elderly people. So it's not an issue. Anybody can come, anybody can participate. The age should not be a barrier. In fact, in the developed society, it will be a kind of discrimination to disqualify someone on the grounds of age, unless that person is not of competent mind or you have issue mentally. So age or whether young or thing, but anybody who is mature enough, who knows that he has something in him, who has what it takes to do well in the country, can join politics. Now, the influence of money should be reviewed. But the problem we have is not only the politicians giving money, but my experience at the grassroots level shows our people, the masses, they are not ready. Everywhere, as at yesterday, in the polling booth, people are still coming to me to support my candidate. How much am I giving them? I said, I'm not going to give you anything, because this election is about whether you want a change, positive change in Nigeria or not. If you still want to remain at the same level, then go and sell your conscience, go and sell your vote. I'm not going to give you anything. And so in many areas, but our people, despite what everybody has been doing in terms of sanitizing the society, telling the people not to sell their vote, but just for 5,000, 10,000, even 1,000 naira. I know life is difficult in some area, but how long with 10,000 last somebody for 4 years? All right? So we need more orientation for the people, telling them it is not about money and should not be about money. Because anybody who pays politicians, who pays their voters, knows the first thing, like Doctor said, is when he is in power, he has to recoup his money. Because it's like business. When you trade, you are expecting profit. But if people vote for their conscience, if not on account of money, and somebody imagines, he knows that he owes the society, he owes the community. But when you spend billions or millions to get to where you are, then you hold people lightly. You don't hold them anything, because you bought, it's like a market, you bought something from them and you have paid them their money. So they have no mouth to talk at all, whether you are performing well or not, because already the money that you have spent that is running to billions, where are you going to get that money back? Well, they are not, the politicians are not for their Christmas. They know what they are using their money for. And we can't blame them, because if people are not taking the money from them, if there are no collector, there won't be a giver. But because people are asking for it, everywhere you go, Honestly, I've spoken to many of them. They will say, okay, yeah, Honorable, how much are you giving us? How much are you giving us? Every year we are doing, yes, they said they like your people, they like your candidate, but what are they going to hit? They need something. You know, it is very sad that at this age, our people are still not mature enough to realize that money is not sure. Any politician who offer them money to vote cannot perform well at all. So that issue should be raised. And the next election, we need more people to start telling their community the election should not be about money. It should be about who can do it better. And if we can get it right at that level, then we are climbing a progress ladder in this country.
Dr. Lee,
yes, Barrister, let me come a bit into what you have said. You see, something we forget is this thing has become almost cultural. Just as the way many things we do wrong in Nigeria has become. Look at the way when you go to parties and they put money.
Free money.
They spraying. We live in this country. It never used to be like that. Gradually, it crept into our culture. When you do something, you begin to spray people with money. There's nobody who sprays from his sweat. I don't think so. You can't work so hard and be spraying in their parties and wasting money. That's one. So the issue of our people, until we begin to let them understand that this money, they see the money belonging to the state, and they see people when they join politics, they were like poor like them. Suddenly they are building houses all over the places, and then they think, this man give me part of this, because nothing comes to them in terms of facilities in their environment. There's no light, there's no water, there's no education, there's no health. And so the little they can get, that's what they wait. And we must dissociate their mind from such. And how do we do it? Do you know what we do in Nigeria? We wait on the next electoral cycle before we begin to educate our people. Let us begin now. Let's begin to show them. I know one thing I want us to know is people see what they learn more from what they see, not what you say. A man is a local government chairman. He had no house when he joined. Somebody loaned him maybe the money to buy, and then he begins to build houses all over. He doesn't live in his locality.
And nobody questions him.
Nobody questions him. I mean, look at those people. We call Nigerians billionaire. We never ask them, how did you get your billions? Until we begin to see them being caught, is then we say, we salute them. We give them chieftaincy titles. We take them in churches, we give them the front pews. And what are you telling the ordinary man? That is the way to survive. And so if we don't begin to change it and then sit at it and get a way to get our people are not stupid. Nigerians are very intelligent. They're very good people. They're very good people across this country. But what have we done to them? We don't reward their goodness. Nobody cares about the man who returns a 10,000 that he found in a hotel. What do our media write about? They write about the few people that steal us, that steal our money, that are people like Hush Puppy. That's what we celebrate. And so when we celebrate them, put them on TV, put them on the cover of newspapers, what are you telling the ordinary man who wants to live right? You are just being stupid. Or how do they say it? That's the way we have turned our country. And so this is something that must be a cultural shift. And it's not going to happen only here. It will happen continuously. And our leaders must leave their talk. You cannot say, oh, don't steal. You steal. You know, many of our children, why they do what they do? A man is a permanent secretary. His children go to school abroad. How much does he earn to pay their school fees abroad? Those are ways in which we tell our society that it is not right to live without corruption. We must begin to ask questions. If you are sending your child abroad, tell me how much you earn. If you are buying a new car, tell me how much you earn to buy a new car. You see, but we don't. The times of asking questions have gone, so we are ingraining in our people a tendency to acquire. And that's why politicians acquire. And what do they spend? Look at the man who is Accountant General of Nigeria. See how much he has stolen. What is going to happen to him? There's no punishment. There's nothing. After a while, you know. A man was caught a few days ago with 32 million naira, brand new notes in 1,000. What's going to happen? Did they mention his name? Before you know what is happening, another scandal will come and cover that up, and we walk away. Some money was found at Ikoyi some time ago. about, I can't remember how much. What has happened?
That's right.
Have we had anything again about that? Nothing. So the other person said, don't waste my time. Nothing will happen. And he takes his own. That is his own cut of the national cake. That's the way he sees it. Until we change that mentality, we are going nowhere.
Right. We'll take a quick break. If you're just joining us, it's Election Watch on Galaxy TV. When we come back, we'll have more updates for you. Stay with us.
So the women should kindly follow our APC presidential candidate, and everybody knows him.
They said that in some instances, the logos of the political parties were on the ballot papers, but the acronyms of the political parties were not on the result sheets. I need to provide this important clarification. The process of producing the result sheets is more complicated than the production of the ballot paper. For result sheets at polling unit level, they are polling unit specific, and there are several carbonized copies that the commission will retain the top copies, the first two top copies, and then give each polling agent at polling unit level a copy, and one copy goes to the police. The process of producing the result sheet is a lot more complicated than the production of the ballot papers. So what we did on the result sheets was to provide 2 additional blank rows. And the purpose of these 2 additional blank rows is to accommodate any political party that we may be compelled to accommodate on the ballot paper by 11th hour judicial pronouncement.
Because I don't know what's happening everywhere. What is happening here is okay. So I hope what is happening here is what is happening globally, all over Nigeria. If it is, fine. It's an existential election. A country is going through a very difficult time and requires an urgent and immediate turnaround to commence. If we are here now, I'm sure you're secure here. So it's not everywhere, it's not, there's insecurity over throughout Nigeria. If you wait or measure it, Southeast remains one of the most secure places in Nigeria. Nigerians to come out and vote is an existential election that will start turning around Nigeria because the country is collapsing.
Confident in what we do, and we thank God for the very peaceful elections. I must truly say thank you to INEC for what we see at the moment, and we say thank you to Mr. President. And I thank God. You can see that both voting centers here, we have large crowds out here, and we thank God that the reports we're getting is the election is fairly peaceful and everything is working, everything is on course. We definitely are very certain that the People's Democratic Party will win the elections nationally because we put in a lot of work, and we have put out a document there. Our documents are covenant with Nigerians, and we believe in what we have spoken to Nigerians. We are not deceitful in what we do.
As a display their independence, I don't see anything they are doing, at least at this polling booth. I don't know what is happening other places, but they have been courteous. Those who are there, they are courteous, and I believe that the independence, I don't doubt it now.
The atmosphere is peaceful. Up till now, we haven't gotten any report of ballot snatching. I think technology had made that one obsolete and gone forever now. That is obviously a very welcome development in our electoral process. Before by now you will have heard stories and phone calls of ballot snatching and all of that.
In this polling unit where I cast my vote, it has a history of being a peaceful one, and today has not been a different one. And it appears as if the equipment from INEC work quite well, and the officials they're following the rules so far. And I see that
the viewers is fantastic. When I wanted to vote, in less than 30 seconds, I've been accredited by the Beavers. I was given the ballot papers in an orderly manner, and I voted. And I can see that the voters have also conducted themselves very well. There has been no reason for us to call attention of any security man to anything.
Goroye, former members of Ondo State House of Assembly. You can see, first and foremost, we have to thank God the weather is okay. The people who are here, the accreditation as well as voting is going on without any problem. And we thank God.
But so far, everything has been peaceful. Very few incidents of electoral malpractice, and we are confident that this will be sustained.
Our appeal to Nigerians, we should be very, very calm. Everything is going on peacefully. They should adhere to that. If there is any violence in any polling unit, INEC will cancel the vote. We don't want that. There should be no overvoting.
But INEC should take note that changing of polling units within a short time to election is very, very wrong. And I think this should be taken seriously. That's just what I think I can accept. Even all the polling units I went, I saw security prepared to take care of and take charge. So we don't have any problem with the issues of security.
In view of the late opening of polls, coupled with the difficulties in locating polling units, Yiaga Africa calls on INEC to extend the time of voting to ensure that all eligible voters exercise their franchise. INEC should issue clear communication on the extension of voting time to all polling officials and the public. INEC should investigate the reasons behind or the reasons responsible for the late deployment of election materials and personnel, including the late activation of the registration areas or registration area centers, they call RACs. Cases of breach of contractual obligations by the Road Transport Workers Union should be met with sanction. INEC should implement its guideline on cases where elections will hold the next day. Where the Commission rescheduled elections to the following day, it should publish the comprehensive list of affected polling units on its online and offline platform very timely. Ensure timely response to issues raised at polling units, such as malfunctioning beavers and location of polling unit. The fifth recommendation, so INEC to ensure compliance with the Electoral Act and the INEC's its own guideline. Yiaga Africa calls on INEC polling officials to ensure strict compliance with the electoral guidelines, especially in the usage of beavers to accredit voters and the upload polling unit result on the INEC result viewing portal, IREV.
Okay, welcome back into the studios. It's still Election Watch on Galaxy Television, where we continue our live coverage of the fallout of the presidential and National Assembly elections as held yesterday. I still have with me Barrister Niyi Aborisade, who is joining us virtually, and Dr. Dokun Adedeji, who is also with me in the studio. Dr. Adedeji, you had a few things that Yiaga, just the last part of the track up we had about INEC addressing several issues as a fallout from yesterday's elections. I'd like to have your response to that, and then we'll go to Barrister Aborisade.
You know, the challenge I always have is this: people seem not to understand that what you can do in technology, you put it there, you put it in. But you can't do that with human beings. We all have all kinds of human beings in Nigeria with different sentiments, with an approach, and they're coming into it with that sentiment. You know, until we find a way, when people begin to understand that this is for a collective purpose as Nigerians, right, not for your patron, not for your leader, not for your mentor, whatever, we will continue to have it. How much can INEC do He doesn't know. It's just like what God says about, it doesn't, I mean, it's only God that knows the construct from our face, know the construct of our heart. It's the same thing about this. I can say, oh, this is a man, but you don't know his thoughts. You don't know what his plans are. You don't know who his sponsors are. And then you take the, how can we give some of these sensitive jobs to people that we know are likely to be politically inclined to some people? We can't get result until we get disparate Nigerians who take this as a job, as a contract, and we're paying you for it, and then you do it and execute it properly. But everybody comes in with what is in it for me. You know, our greatest threat in this matter is the now mentality. Oh, what I need it now, forgetting the future. I always say something. A wise man plants a tree knowing that it's not likely to sit under its shade. But in Nigeria, you want to sit under it, you want to plant, you want to sit under it. What about your children? We don't think about the future. We don't think about what our nation will benefit as legacies that we leave behind. It's just what is in it for me now. And that's why people are doing what they're doing. You give a contract to somebody to supply or carry people to certain place, he doesn't show up, or he shows up, he carries them somewhere else because of his own personal, and then you begin to blame INEC. INEC cannot police him from carrying people. You give him a contract. But as that gentleman said, people must be punished for a breach of contract.
Right.
If we don't do that, they'll do it next time.
Right. But Abushira, let me also come to you to speak to some of the issues raised by Yiaga as a fallout of yesterday's elections.
You can't predict some people. We don't know their mentality. We don't know which candidate have in mind, and that is a very difficult task. In abroad, they will check. There's a check of everybody before you are employed to do a sensitive job like this. There is a check they will do. They will even ask for your religion, for your political leaning, if you have any. So these kind of things are not done there. And so some people, it is becoming common practice among political parties to push their people to join in INEC, not knowing that, and people will not, the INEC themselves will not, because they didn't do any political check background to discover those that they give the job. And this is very difficult for the people. And you see, that's why even in polling booths, the INEC officials are talking to, they are speaking to some people. Oh, can you give us something to eat? I saw it myself, my naked eyes, and I look. Why are they not paying you? They have paid them already, or they are about to pay them. But you should not be asking people that because you see them that they are worthy or they belong to one, support one political or one politician or anything. Nobody asking them for money. This should not be. It shouldn't continue. Things have to be done differently if there is going to be a positive change in this country. INEC themselves, they have to conduct background check before employing anyone to serve as INEC official, because this is where the problem lies. When political parties are pushing them under to join it, so that they can favor them in the election. This should not continue. This should not be. So things have to change. We have to do things differently. It's only a fool that continue to do something and expect changes. But when you change the way you are doing things, then there will be positive change. So we have to make positive changes in this country. Thank you.
Argument also is that the INEC should not be over dependent on ad hoc staff who don't have a stake in our political process, and also the over dependence of on contractors to move sensitive materials around. How is this affecting, you know, in terms of the delays, in terms of voting starting late, accreditation and voting starting late in several polling units across the country yesterday? How does this impact on that?
Yeah, well, we live in a complex society. Things are very different. For example, they will have to move materials from one place to another. The road itself are not good. The road itself are not good. So there's no way there will not be any delay. A lot of things are happening, which we have to change before the next election. I'm talking of another 4 years. For instance, now, anybody who wins this election must make sure that we have good roads. They put good vehicle on the road to deliver materials. When they issue contract, look at what happened in Lagos. One known person that belong to one political group ask for a contract to distribute the election material. And they nearly gave him the contract until the people started saying, no, we are not going to take this. In fact, they took them to court because of this. So how will you give somebody that is well known, that belongs to one political party, that associated one political big politician, and you gave him the contract to distribute electoral materials? Now, a thief said you want to repair the door of your room, and you are not careful. So this is what's happening in Nigeria. If not that people are shouting, that people are commenting, they would have given him. And in some places, this really happened, that they gave the electoral materials to be distributed by someone that is affiliated with one political group or the other. And this should not continue. INEC also, they have a lot of work to do. If they want at least the best electoral process in the next election, they have to do lots of work, background check, and not allowing any politician to influence them. That is the only time we can get the best of election in Nigeria. As it is now, like I said earlier, we are moving forward, but we have left Egypt, but we have not reached the promised land. We can still reach the promised land if we ensure that things are done properly. It will be effective. Thank you.
I thank you, Barrister, and I agree completely with you. But one thing I want to raise is this. A few years ago, before Buhari came in, there was a Ways report. You know, Justice Ways there was a panel that was set up to look at it. He had a report that had conclusions about most of the things we're still arguing with today. That report was never published, neither was it implemented. We will just be wasting our time reinventing the wheel. Let us go to basis of it and let's see what can we do and then what can we use. If we don't do those things, we'll continue to roam in the labyrinth and then we continue like this. We need to go back, look at it, and then from the lessons we've learned, what are we going to do? Why, as the barrister said, why will you give, you said something about, it will be difficult for them to have staff, but the thing is this, which are the sensitive areas of your job? You don't give it to ad hoc staff. And then if it's just to carry, and then when you do that, you then probably put a staff with the ad hoc staff.
And you also do proper background checks.
Absolutely, background check. How would you, you know, the problem is this, we will not prepare until a month to next election. And so you then begin to scamper around to get whoever they throw at you. And these politicians, they are crafty. They will throw their men, they say they're ad hoc, they're not, they throw their children, throw their family members. Who do you think their allegiance belong to? To their mentors. We need to sit down, look at it. When we review past elections, what are the results we get and what do we intend to do? We don't do, if we don't begin to act on those things we got in the initial, we can't wait until almost end. We'll be wasting our time.
Well, the argument also is that some of these things will not change, especially if there's no political will on the part of our leaders.
Absolutely.
To deal with some of these challenges.
You know, I always say something, these politicians will never contemplate whatever will shortchange their state. That's why the National Assembly election should be so important to Nigerians, the people we put there. You see, the thing is, if not for maybe a bit of the way Buhari stood with the Electoral Act, you know what would have happened with the Electoral Act? They were dancing around, they didn't want him to sign, they wanted him to sign something else. The thing is, do we care about our country? We don't. Many of these politicians don't. As long as they get what they can get, the gravy train, that's all that matters to them. The political will then is not there. When Buhari came in, there was a Ways report. Did he read it again? Did anybody in government look at it and say, this is what we can do? No. Because when somebody will say, if we do this, it will reduce this, it will reduce this, we can't do this, we can't do that. That is the problem. It's always about now. How does this benefit me? But nobody thinks about Nigeria. It's only when other things come. Look at what happened with this cashless thing. Are the governors, do they live in the moon? When ASU was on strike, how did they talk to Mr. Buhari about it? Did they do anything? But when it came to a situation that affected them, They then went to court, they then went to civil. That cannot be the way we run a country. That cannot be. It cannot just because something does not fit into our own contemplation, then we worry about it. Where does Nigeria, where do the people stand in these things? Who cares about the average Nigerian? Today we are not saying if anybody cares, I drive on Maryland and I see a pregnant woman selling a groundnut on her head. How much does it make in a day to sustain it? So somebody will come and give her 10,000, she will not vote. She will vote. Because what she sells on a daily basis for a month does not amount to 10,000. So that 10,000 is big, but yet in our own understanding as is not big. We need to change. We have weaponized poverty to the extent that, oh boy, this is what I see today. Tomorrow they may not offer me, I take it. But we are subjecting our children's future to the games of these politicians. We just need to change.
Barrister Abori-Shade, let me come back to you and ask you to also respond to some of the issues raised by Doctor in his comments, and how we can begin to address some of these issues.
I totally agree. We have to start now. Like he said, there are some things that have been done in the past, and when the new government comes, they threw those things into debate. We need to bring this thing up and look at it. We should review everything that can make this political process work well in our country. It is so sad that at this stage, this is what we are still talking about in Nigeria. When we are talking, how can we elect a credible leader when the foundation is not good? The foundation of electing a credible leader is through the electoral process. But when the electoral process has been infiltrated by some people that can influence the outcome of the election, then we have problems. So we better start now and to implement it before the government leaves. Unless this is implemented or this is done before this current regime leaves, any new government will not do anything about it. They will only do what favors them. Even when you look at the way things are going, some things have to be put in proper structure before the new government. Otherwise, there will still be chaos. Imagine one governor saying that, don't worry, if my candidate wins, the policy, the caliber will be reversed, and we continue spending the old money. Look at the amount of money that government has invested in this new cashless policy. And somebody was promising the electorate that they will reverse it. So all the monies that they have spent in printing new notes and all those things and logistics will be put into those. So these are the kind of things that I emphasize that this regime that is going should take into consideration and ensure that things are put in proper perspective to ensure that there is no reverse of some good policies. And those that are not, those that they have done in the past, they can bring it out, restore it, make sure they do it in proper way. Otherwise, we will be moving around the cycle every year, and nothing will change. But we need positive change in Nigeria, and we need change of mindset of our people as well. We need, unless people cooperate with the government, the law cannot enforce itself. It's the people that will enforce the law. Most of the government policy, if they are good, we should not listen to the politician who are doing something that will pay for them. Not they are not acting the best interest of the citizens of this country. So people should be able to discern, and we need more human rights activists to speak up. It's a pity that a lot of human rights activists that we have in the past, they have gone to the world beyond, and those we have now are speaking not as before. So we need more human rights to encourage the people to disseminate good information about the policy of government. The one that is good, they encourage people. The one that is not good, they speak out about it. That is when we can have positive change in this country. And that is what we are clamoring for. Thank you very much.
It's Election Watch on Galaxy TV. We'll take another short break. When we come back, we'll take you to Anambra State, where our correspondent Dele Fason is standing by with an update. Stay with us. Okay, welcome back. We'll take you straight to Awka South in Anambra State, where our correspondent Dele Fason is standing by with an update. Good morning, Dele. Right, you are the INEC Collation Center in Awka South. What's the update from your end?
Yes, thank you very much. You see, behind me here, the coalition sorting and dumping of materials are going on here in the Oka South, the coalition center here. And if you look closely there, if you look towards the end there, operatives of the EFCC, they just stopped here, not quite 15 minutes ago, for information that some politicians are about to give cash here. But right now, the officials are everywhere, they are doing their job in ensuring that those people are being arrested, if any, but no proof yet. But they are all everywhere here to ensure that nobody comes in here with cash. The exercise is going on very smoothly here because the materials from different areas, the central, Anambra Central, is here. Since morning, they started here. Since yesterday night till this morning, when some material, voting went late in the night, so many of them are coming here. A lot have gone, more are still coming. The electoral officer, the head of the electoral officer, Ifeanyi Okola, who wanted to speak with us, but when the FCC officials came, they have to excuse him to do some other business. That's why he left us here. But right now, this coalition center, they are sorting out the materials to announce the results of this area. But what they are doing presently is still the sorting and counting of the vote cards.
Just confirm to us, are all the ballot boxes in, or the votes in from all the local governments in Anambra State?
Yes. Let me speak where I am right now. I am from here right now. They are not expecting any other ballot voters from the south now. Because from this area, the Anambra South Coalition Center, yesterday, they've gotten all their materials, and the materials, since it started coming in yesterday till this morning. So the materials they have for this place now is okay. What they are just doing now is just something behind it, something behind the and security agencies here. Some of them that brought it are ensuring that the materials are being sorted out. So for now, the materials here, they are good to go in sorting out, and at the end of the day, announcing the results for Anambra Central South.
Today, when you have more updates for us. Thank you. That was our correspondent, Dele Fason, giving us that update from Anambra South and Oka South in Anambra State. Stay with us. We go to Abuja, where Godfrey Esemoge is standing by.
The provision of security is also fantastic. I think I can judge that this is one of the most peaceful and best organized election I have witnessed in my career in the police force. I've been participating in election and election skills. I think we have done well so far. So we are waiting for all the deciding officers to finish collecting their result and announcing it at that place, and for them to move to the next collation center. So we are on top of the situation, and generally the performance of everybody is encouraging, particularly the turnout in the southeast is also very, very encouraging. Election is going on fine everywhere. The effectiveness of the monitoring room is that you will get real-time information from wherever they are reporting. It's not just mere voice mode. You can see it real-time. The reporters or those who are posted to monitor have body cameras that make them able to transmit.
Yes, I'm very impressed because I've seen how the people turn up. I'm very impressed. I'm very happy. Well, the candidate I voted for, I already mentioned it in so many number of states, in Nasarawa, in Katsina, in Sokoto, all over the place. I mentioned my favorite candidate, and I believe my constituency will choose him 100%. Yes, Nigerians should make sure that they have been respected. That means the candidate they want to vote for, they are allowed to vote for him. It's a pity there is only one woman candidate as a governorship from Adamawa State. So the woman should kindly follow our APC presidential candidate, and everybody knows him.
You're welcome back. We'll take you back to Abuja, where Paul James, Program Manager, Youth Initiative for Advocacy, Growth and Advancement, is standing by to speak to us live from Abuja. Good morning, Paul. Right. Your group is one of those monitoring the elections, as it happened yesterday, and also that is still happening in terms of the collation and all. Can you take us through some of the updates you have from the field across the country?
Yesterday, we deployed observers to all the 774 local government, deploying the parallel vote tabulation. We were in 1,507 polling units, but also we had 822 observers that drove across the local government and across the state. As of 7:30 yesterday morning, we received reports about delayed arrival of INEC officials. Across the country, only 27% of polling units had at least an INEC official by 7:30 in the morning. And then we saw also a trend which looks like what we saw in the 2019 election, where arrival was also delayed in the southern part of the country, especially in the south and the southeast. Additionally, also, by 9:30 in the morning, only 41% of polling units had started accreditation. As of 12 noon, we still had about 8% of polling units that did not start accreditation. As I speak, this morning, we're also able to confirm that from our sample polling units, 18 of those polling units, INEC did not conduct elections yesterday. So INEC had returned to those locations today to continue the process. We are monitoring the process, and then we hope INEC will also give opportunity to Nigerians to be able to participate in the process. But then in the polling units also that INEC did deploy yesterday, whilst the process went smoothly across several locations, one of the concerns we had highlighted in our statement is the concern around the likely low turnout of voters. We are waiting until we receive official turnout figures from INEC. But perhaps because of some encumbrances we saw in the build-up to the election, we thought it could potentially affect turnout. For instance, the crisis with accessing money that we saw before the election, and even on the part of INEC, will have impacted logistics and deployment to the polling units.
INEC Chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, did say that the beavers worked optimally. Do you agree with this? In spite of the bottlenecks experienced in some locations across the country.
We saw deployment across all of the polling units that we observed, but then it functioned optimally in 88% of the polling units that we deployed to. In 7% of polling units, it malfunctioned and was fixed. In another 1%, it malfunctioned and was replaced. There were locations that the beavers malfunctioned and were not replaced, and these are part of the locations where INEC is conducting elections today. Some of these locations were in Kano State and also in Delta State. So INEC suspended the process to continue today. The beavers is supposed to do an end-to-end engagement of the process, both the verification of voters' fingerprints, voter facial biometrics, and also the voters' permanent voters card, but as well also for transmission of polling unit level results and polling unit number of accredited voters per polling unit. As of yesterday, we could not get the figure of transmitted results because, of course, we know there were challenges with the INEC online results being ported, that as of 10 p.m., none of these polling unit level results had been submitted. So, which begs the question whether it was a problem of technology or the problem of network. But until this morning, that we saw about 25,000 polling results that were submitted out of the over 176,000 results that were expected to be submitted. So to a large extent, the beavers did work, yes, but like I said, it only functioned optimally in 88% of polling units.
You to speak to the issue of violence in elections. Some Beavers machines were hijacked yesterday. Violence was also recorded in some parts of the country yesterday. How do we begin to deal with some of these issues, especially as we have another election in the next 2 weeks, and also even for future elections?
Well, it's not like the signs were not there before the election. It's just the episodic engagement that we adopt to election. Most times, the people that are supposed to apprehend or stop these monsters from carrying out the nefarious activities wait until close to the election or even election day before they begin to act. We have seen in the build-up of the election concerns related to violence, and we have reported consistently in our pre-election report. Specifically, I think in Young Africa's second pre-election observation report that was released in December, we indicated locations in 9 states where we thought there are potential for election violence that we thought the security was supposed to address. Sadly, on the eve of the election, in one of those locations, we got report that the communities were ransacked. 4 communities were ransacked in Niger State on the eve of the election, technically disenfranchising people from participating. In Ihiala local government as well, we could not even recruit observers from that local government. So it is a report from the roving observers that we relied on that indicated that there was also potential for violence. And election reports also from some part of the southeastern states. Now this is worrying in our election, because in elections can never be peaceful in an atmosphere of violence. It affects confidence. It also affects the participation of voters to engage the process. So we hope that security agencies will take lessons from here. But the lesson, what we also expect or anticipate is that defaulters or whoever is perpetrating this violence are apprehended and they are named and shamed ahead of the election, so it can serve as deterrent for whoever is planning to foment trouble in the coming elections.
You go to speak to the issue of what INEC needs to do to make this process more seamless, and results are being collated now, and we still hope that there'll be more developments as the minutes go by. What does INEC need to do to address these issues and to make it more seamless?
Well, nothing short of greater transparency will be expected on the part of the Commission. While the online election results viewing portal was introduced, for instance, is to improve on the transparency and the acceptance of the outcome of election results. But then it is suspicious that until late evening yesterday, election results were not uploaded for Nigerians to see. So those kind of thing undermines confidence. Those kind of activities raises unnecessary suspicion. So you want to see openness on the part of INEC, one, and improve communication, that whatever could have been the challenge that limited INEC from uploading the results as of when expected yesterday, INEC should come up with a clear communication to explain to Nigerians what happened. And then going forward as well, we saw concerns also from some locations where officials were saying they were unable to upload the results from the polling unit because they don't have access to network, or they don't have facilities for network, to the extent that Nigerians were even the ones that supported or provided these facilities or these notices for INEC officials. INEC need to also improve on that and ensure that, in addition to whatever they are providing to the officials to deploy to the polling unit, that they provide the kind of logistics they need to ensure a smooth upload of polling unit level results. So going forward, what we expect is communication on every aspect of the process. INEC need to be proactive in its engagement and not reactive, not waiting until things happen before they begin to come up with stories for Nigerians.
We'll get to speak to you much later as
Thank you very much for
as events unfold. Thank you. That was Paul James, Program Manager for YAGA, speaking to us live from Abuja. Barrister Aburishade, let me come to you and ask you to respond briefly to to the issues raised by IAGA monitoring these elections across the country, and what are your thoughts?
But from my assessment of what he said, I think the election was still not bad in Abuja, despite some skirmishes in some places. But like I said in the beginning, there is still substantial compliance with the electoral process there. But INEC can do better. The area that has been highlighted, I think INEC has to look into it and make sure that proper measure is put in place before the next gubernatorial and the assembly, state assembly election. So that's what we need at the moment. We are saying where there is a need and how to fill that need is now the issue before the high need. Something that is good, we should continue with it. Some of the areas that needs to be done very well, then they have to look into it and provide measure to make sure that all the places where there are bad occurrences should not repeat itself in the next election. So if you have to talk in the next election, we will be pressing them. They have to do what they have to do. He has spoken very well. He has highlighted where there are issues. He has praised them where they have done well. And that is the most important thing. But where they have not performed well, then they need to look into it and make sure that measure is put in place to ensure the smooth political electoral process in the next election. Thank you very much.
Let me come to you, Dr. Adedeji, and you had a few things Paul James talked about, especially in his closing remarks, where he was talking about the difficulty in uploading the results, you know, as stated by INEC, you know, as expected from INEC. Some of these issues, please respond to them.
You know, the thing also is, I like the way the guy has responded. There is no condemnation or something, but just try to reason in the areas in which we need to work harder. My question would have been to INEC, how much of coordination did they do with the network services? Because truly, where I voted, we waited until they could upload. Everybody insisted that, because that's an area, as the IAGA man said, that lends itself to suspicion. If, for instance, figures are not immediately uploaded, then there's a tendency to think that it's been manipulated. So the thing is, what kind of synergy does INEC have with the network provider? Which means that as soon as the results are done with, and then it can be uploaded immediately and everybody can see it, and then it goes straight. Those are the issues that I think we need to begin to address to create a transparency that people will be happy with. Oh, the election was fair and proper, and then so we can accept. But when we leave loopholes, it gives room to suspicion, and then people will say, oh, let's go to court, and then it's a time for the lawyers to begin to eat as well, when we begin to drag and drag. But by and large, as he said, 88% compliance with the beavers is okay, but can it be better? What do we need to do? Is it possible that for each polling booth there is an extra provided, and then so that at least when one fails, another one takes over? And is it also the issue of use of the person that is using it, does he have a competence to? It may not be that the beavers itself is faulty. It could be the fact that the person does not know how to manipulate it. Right. And also
in spite of the training?
How much of training do these people have? Because when you see them do it, I mean, I've voted in a few elections and I've seen sometimes also they can get jittery with so many people shouting on them as I do this, and then they also can miss it. The thing also, and then when it comes also to areas in which we must know by now the areas that are prone to violence for one flimsy reason or the other, and then stop that place with the kind of security that prevents the kind of the things we say. I don't understand how it's this impossible for people to snatch ballot boxes and run away. And so these are things that are man-made and that a man also should be able to deal with. And as long as we can do that, I think we give a potential for a better election, even in the next one. And one thing that I also say, if election is seen not to have been carried out, we must insist that it is done, so that we properly, so that people don't think, oh, we have disrupted it, we can get it, and then say substantial compliance then means we can accept the result. People should not be disenfranchised. From what Yakub said yesterday, the chairman of INEC, that nobody there who got in there by 2/3 should be disenfranchised. We must stand by that and then insist.
Okay, we'll take another break. When we come back, we'll go to Agege Local Government Collation Center, where correspondent Levy Joseph is standing by. Stay with us. Okay, we'll take you straight to Agege Local Government Collation Center, where our correspondent Levy Joseph is standing by with an update. Good afternoon, Levy. Or good morning, beg your pardon. Yes, what's the update from the Agege Local Government Collation Center? What's happening there right now?
Yes, I'm right there at Aribala office, Agege Local in Oride Agege. There's 3 hours of activity. Yes, party agents, presiding officer, coalition exercise is they're doing coalition exercise right inside the hotel, where they're collating the election results from the 11 wards across the local government. Talking about the presidential elections, the Senate, and the House of Representatives, which was conducted yesterday. The results, all the presiding officers are right inside there. Some of the ones that their results are not ready, they are the other side there doing their sum up before they move in to give the result for the officers there to collate and move over down to the INEC office in Yaba for final transmission to Abuja.
The votes in, are all the votes already at the collation center? Please confirm that to us. The results from the 11 wards that you mentioned earlier, are they all at the collation center now?
Yes, every one of them has right now. And we understand that according to information I got, right throughout the local government, the election was peaceful. There was no form of intimidation or any violence. And the party agents, every one of them, they are sitting right in front of you here, which everybody are sitting peacefully waiting for the final collation of the results for transition to the INEC office in Yaba.
Just before you go to Agege, give us a feel of other places you visited just before getting to Agege. Right.
Agege. Yeah. Actually, the election is very, very soon. Because the remaining results that will be collected up to 5 anymore, according to the commander spoke, that very soon they are going to finish the operation and the results shall be moved down to Yaba.
Thank you very much, Levy. Keep us updated on developments in that area. Correspondent Levy Joseph giving us that update from Agege Collation Center of INEC. Dr. Adediji, let me ask you to look at the Electoral Act as amended, 2022 Electoral Act as amended. It gives a more robust framework for the conduct of elections. If you look at it holistically, do you think, how much impact has that made on this election?
I think it's made a lot of tremendous impact, because I've listened to some lawyers interrogate it, and they said it almost completely obliterates what was there before. It gives INEC more leeway to act in a capacity that is independent. and also it allows this technology and then allows it to be sent directly to the server, and gives them room to at least to be able to work. If something happens and then they can amend, they can go on with it. Or else, what just happened yesterday in which they had to suspend elections would have not been possible. And then, so I think if we continue to amend and look at the situation as it comes, and use it again further, and also more probably, as I said earlier, look at the Ways report and what it is, and then can we marry the contents of both to make it better, and then move on in a better direction. But all of this will still come to the fact that anywhere where man is involved, we need to know the mentality and the leaning of that person. As Barrister Aburshade said, we need to do more background checking of anyone, whether as ad hoc or even as staff of INEC, so that this can all work together to give us almost a near perfect election. There's no perfect election anywhere, but at least something close to near perfect that people can then be satisfied with the outcome.
Okay, Barrister Aburshade, let me also come to you to look at the 2022 Electoral Act as amended, and again it gives us a more robust framework for the conduct of elections in this country. Look at it from the legal point of view. How has this impacted on our elections? Even though we still have bottlenecks here and there, but how has this impacted on our elections?
More value. Let me put it that. However, this is still subject to the interpretation of the court. So, despite the Electoral Act, which will provide a very good framework for the electoral process, when you get to court, the way the judges are interpreting the act, because of the influence of what we have been talking about, is see another major problem. The truth of the matter is our judiciary needs to be purged if we will get to if we are going to the promised land at all. Because the issue is not the law. The law cannot enforce itself. Where the law says you should do this. Do you know one of the problems we are having? Is technicalities in court. They will not consider the merit of your case. What they will do is that they will put some technicalities and they will not deal with the merit at all. So by the time they dismiss the case from the lower court, when you start counting the days, by the time you get to the Supreme Court, they will tell you that their hands are tied because the numbers of days that you should have done this has gone. Not your fault, but the court process. So when you consider everything together, our judiciary is also one of the problems that we have in this country. Not the law itself. The law has been put well. If we follow the law, if we apply mischief rules, that is the reason behind the law. And the court interpret that law the way it should be interpreted, not with the influence of financial inducement, then everything will be okay. But we have many cases are thrown out in court, not because you don't have a good case, but because of the influence of financial inducement. And this has to come with it. That is the truth of the matter. Our judiciary needs to be put. Any new incoming government has to ensure that our judiciary is almost free of corruption. I know, like Dr. Adik said, there is no perfect system anywhere. But at least we can, if you can say 90% of our GSM is less corrupt, then we are on the right pedestal. Otherwise,
you talk about the law courts, you talk about the judiciary. Let me ask you to respond to this. There's a school of thought that believes that our law courts should not be made to answer political questions. How do you respond to this?
Question very good. What do you mean by our law courts? Sorry to ask you, should not answer political questions. I don't understand that. I need to understand that, please. Please explain for me, please, so that I can deal with this.
In other words, if we have a perfect system, then we don't have to go all the way to the courts to resolve these issues for us.
There is no perfect system anywhere. Judiciary is the last hope of common man. Where your right is trampled upon, the best way to go is to go to the court. But if you have a good judiciary system, then at least the common man will be happy to go to the court. In the UK or America, I live in the UK for 30 years. So I know, I practice there as a lawyer, not here. So I know you can, even no matter how poor you are, even if you cannot pay the lawyer, there is legal aid that you can apply, that the lawyer will work for you. You will know that this is a level playing ground where your issue can be addressed. As if you lose the case, you know, yes, you lose because you don't deserve to win, not because of inducement, financial inducement. Financial inducement everywhere in Nigeria now. In fact, judiciary is the word when it comes to financial inducement, when it comes to electoral issue, when there is a whether pre-election matter or post-election matter. When you see a lot of people they will tell you, you have a good case. Why is it that they throw it out? We know what is going on in us. So this area needs to be looked into. I am able to say this because I don't practice in Nigeria. Let me put that way, because some lawyers know this, but they can't say it, because if they say it out, they will deal with it in court in a way. So, but I am not practicing here. I practice in the UK, so I'm free to say it. So we need to look into it. There is major issue with our judicial system in Nigeria. Unless this is looked into, you will see that somebody that should not be there is there. Look at let me just give you an instance. Rotimi Amici, he became the governor, courtesy of the court. A man who did not contest election, a man who did not participate in even in that substantive election, but he said he should be the winner of the primary election, and therefore he became governor by force, by default. So how can they do that? And they did it because, for one reason or the other, not because the law says so. So the interpretation of our law, which is in the hand of the judges, is an issue. So we need to look into it and purge the judiciary if we are going to have a very good and near perfect electoral process in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your contributions to the segment of Election Watch on Galaxy. We appreciate your contributions. Also, Dr. Dokun Adedeji, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.
We hope to have you much later today as events unfold.
Okay, I'll be here.
Thank you very much. That's about all we can take on this segment of Election Watch on Galaxy Television. We'll be back much later as we bring you more updates and breaking news. Stay with us.